Welcome to another episode of Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. Tonight we have a good show for you guys. We're going to be talking Tom Brady returning for his 23rd season and how we're feeling about this new NBA. So let's get started.
Welcome to Jasmine Pollock's First Impression Sports Talk, the fastest growing sports talk show in the country. And now, here's your host, Jasmine Pollock.
Welcome back, you guys. And let's get started. So, Jeremiah, we're going to talk about Tom Brady returning. So, my first initial thing when the season was over, it was that I thought Tom Brady is done. I was one of those people saying, oh, he's not coming back, and I stood on that for the longest. But the fact that, yesterday he goes on his Twitter, his Instagram,
Big
look, I'm
news.
coming back. There's unfinished business. So Jeremiah, what is your take on Tom Brady returning to the Bucs for his 23rd season in the NFL?
Jess, I would have to say surprise. Out of nowhere, this really came because I seen him earlier that day with Ronaldo at his game, and he asked him, are you really finished? And I thought, Brady was just, playing around, maybe wanting to have a little bit of the media spark a little bit for a little bit of attention because he's a funny guy. I thought, it was all for jokes and everything, but I didn't expect him hours later to make this huge post for him to be like, I'm coming back for my 23rd season. I love my family and I love football, just everything. And to me, is every bit of shock because I'm like, okay, you supposed to be kind of retired. And for me, Tom Brady, he didn't really end on a terrible note. Of course, they fell short when it came to getting to the NFC conference or trying to go to compete for a championship. But he ended such on a great note, especially how he was ending that game, which they played against the Rams. He hit that last touchdown and brought his team back, but just came up a little bit short. And my only thing is, going forward for this season, I'm going to ask just like, what's the point of really Brady coming back? What is there more to accomplish? I know, he's a very older player. He has a longevity. No other quarterback is probably going to do what he has done, especially when it comes to his accolades and everything else. But what is he really playing for in the future? Because God forbid if he has any injury, he wants to end on a great note. And I hope that him coming back doesn't ruin that ending on a great note just in case if anything happens, God forbids. But those are the things that, I kind of think about and I kind of worry about him and his family for.
Yeah, for me, I was bamboozled. I thought he was gonna be done. There were so many reports saying, this guy he's done, and then the Bucks are doing a tribute thing. There's just a bunch of things going on, and it's unfortunate because I was really looking forward to seeing Trask step in and see what he was gonna do, and him being a young quarterback because we're starting to see the young quarterbacks excel at a very high level, and seeing like when you look at the AFC now, you have a lot of young quarterbacks who are striving to be great, and they're going to be battling it out next season and the next few years to come. And for me, the biggest question I have for Brady, he's accomplished everything as a quarterback. You couldn't ask this man to you couldn't ask for a better career. Um, 10 Super Bowls, 7 rings. I mean, what more does he have to prove? He has every record in the book. I don't think we'll ever see a quarterback go to 10 championships in the span of 20 years like the way he did. I don't think we'll ever see that. He's been dominating for 2 decades, literally. And it's like, what more do you want? I know you love the game of football, that's part of you, it's a part of you, but what more do you want? You've won everything. And honestly, I think he should have retired after he won that Super Bowl with the Bucs 2 years ago in Tampa. That was something that you could have ended on a highlight note and left it at that. But I feel like when you get too greedy, some things don't always go the other way because you're starting to see a lot of these teams are getting better. There's a lot of good quarterbacks who are starting to come up. They're up and coming. A lot of young quarterbacks who are striving and doing very good things. And yeah, Brady is the greatest to do this. He's the most accomplished quarterback I've ever seen. But it's just what now? Like, how are we looking at this Bucks team now? Like, what are we going to see? Because I don't think they're bringing back everyone. I think their defense still has certain holes that have to be fixed. I think offensively, I don't know. There's reports that Gronk could be going to the Bills. It's just a lot of things going on. But just to, like you said, Jeremiah, Tom Brady did end on a good note. He had a chance to bring his team back in that divisional round against the Rams, even though the Bucks defense was terrible. It was atrocious. But I want to mention some stats that he had. He did have a MVP caliber season, so he probably wants that back. He had over 5,000 yards passing, 43 touchdowns, and only 12 interceptions. That's pretty good, for a guy who's been playing as long as he has. But the biggest question for me is, what does Tom Brady want? What more does he want? And then you hear the reports of Deshaun could be going to the Saints. Deshaun could be going to the Panthers. There's a lot going on. So, Jeremiah, for you, like, what are the expectations now for the Bucs? You see a lot of these teams are getting better. A lot of teams are building around their young quarterbacks. What is your expectation now for the Bucs? Are they going to bring everyone back like they did? Is there going to be new faces in the organization?
To me, when it comes to the Bucks, I'm not ever going to question Brady on what he can do because he already know 23 years in this profession, you have to be a top of your game and knowing a bunch of defenses from offense. He's such a playbook himself. He is the original playbook from inside and out. So I'm never going to question what he can do when it comes to big moments and also going forward. But I do worry about the whole team as a process during this last season. You already know a lot of different players were going to be leaving, or either is going to be some contract problems because the Bucks, they do not have enough money to pay everybody. That's the reason why I would say Godwin is flagged right now. And also when it comes to other players as well, you have them leaving because I just saw their O line just got signed by the Bengals right now. And for their players, the only thing I really worry about is there's certain things of playing together in their chemistry. Not saying, how they played in their first year was very spectacular, but that's when everybody was all in. But trying to get back to that certain thing that you once was is very hard to do, especially doing it back to back or coming back a triple time because you don't know the expectations. And for the Bucks themselves, they've been struggling with the injury bug, especially last season. Their defense has been taking a bad drop recently. And, I know Brady's offense was carrying them last season when it came to everything else. But can you trust that this year with the defense as it was, and plus, not having that much money to even go out and get everybody with everybody leaving?
Yeah, I agree. And for me, it's just a lot of questions that I have for this Bucks team. I know my dad; he's excited. He's excited that Brady's coming back, and but it's just the question of, is everyone going to be able to stay? I'm sure that there's a lot of players that want to get paid, especially on the defensive side of the ball. You have a lot of star players that want to get paid and want their money. And it's a big deal that they lost that O lineman to the Bengals, and the Bengals are making moves at getting O linemen to protect Burrow, because I thought that was their biggest their weakest link on their team is their defense, their offensive line. And for Brady, he needs all the protection he can get. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And saying they can't go in free agency and get people, or go in the draft and get people. That's 100% possible, but it's just there's a lot of unknowns about this season, because it feels like, okay, Brady's coming back. Okay, it's not like, he had an injury and it ended on a bad note and he's like, man, I'm coming back to redeem myself. No, I mean, the past 2 years, first year you won the Super Bowl, the second year you almost came back in the divisional round. Now what? Like, okay, we're gonna go try to get it again. But it's like a lot of these teams are getting better. These teams are getting stronger. These quarterbacks are getting smarter. Like, it's just a lot of things going on. And I just don't think I think Brady should have hung it up when he won that Super Bowl in Tampa the first year. I think that was the time he said, you know what, I'm done. I've accomplished anything. I don't think we'll ever see that again in this
Agreed.
era. A quarterback going to 10 Super Bowls and winning 7 of them. I don't think we'll ever see that, and then have the stats that he does. It's going to be very hard for somebody to top that or match that. But that wraps up this segment. We're going to go into the NBA, because Jeremiah, we have to talk about this new NBA and how it's looking, and these athletes sitting out and load managing. We're going to get into that after this short break.
Water. It's everywhere. We drink it, we bathe with it, we cook with it. Coffee's made with water. Toilets won't flush without it. It's used for washing clothes, dishes, utensils, pots, pans, floors, and our teeth. Plants and crops need water, animals drink it, and fish need it too. And don't forget, we can have a lot of fun in the water. Water. What will we do without it?
Slow roasted over hickory fire and pulled by hand. This is the way pit pork has always been done. Pulled pork lovers, rejoice. The smoky old days are back at the Smoke Shack. From the creative team that brought you The Browning Project and Dead by Morning comes a new thriller that will change the way you look at white-collar crime forever. Falling from the Sky.
You're watching Jasmine Pollock's First Impressions Sports Talk. Be sure to join Jasmine every week for great conversation on the NBA, NFL, and a wide variety of sports topics. To see past episodes of First Impressions Sports Talk, go to YouTube and search First Impressions Sports Talk. You can connect with Jasmine on LinkedIn by searching Jasmine Pollock. And now, back to more First Impressions Sports Talk.
Welcome back to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. And to wrap up the night, we're going to talk about a topic that me and Jeremiah has been talking about for a couple of weeks now about the new NBA. We're seeing a lot of stories come out of the NBA where a lot of these players are forcing trades. Like, for example, Ben Simmons being traded to Brooklyn and for swapping with James Harden and a lot of different players. And Steph Curry also went to Brooklyn as well. Jeremiah, I want to bring you in. Now, for me, I know early 2000s and even the 90s and even before that, the NBA was structured. It had discipline. There was a lot of structure. There was a lot of things in place, that there was boundaries. Now it seems like it's more player oriented, which is fine, but I feel like now it's getting out of hand where players are just like, well, I'm just going to sit out. I'm not going to work out. I'm not going to be around the team because I want to get traded. Just like what James Harden did, just what a lot of these players did. Jeremiah, what is your take on this new look NBA now?
Now, when it comes to the NBA today, I feel like more of the players first and players decision policy. I feel like is getting a little bit more out of hand. I would say when it came to actually 2010, when LeBron made his decision to go to the Cleveland Cavaliers, you know, many people can blame him for how this thing is going right now, but I don't blame him because when it comes to LeBron James, wherever he went to, he always honored his contract all the way through. And you seeing right now, especially with these new stars, I would say within a Ben Simmons or with a James Harden or even a Zion Williams, a lot of these players, they are either not, you know, trusting the organization or they're giving up on the organization so fast that I would do this or threaten this organization until you trade me or trade me to a place that I would like or be teamed up with somebody else. Just for example, how James Harden just forced himself out from Brooklyn because times got tough and you know they was on a losing streak right at that moment, and plus you know things weren't going good. Okay, and he just want to force himself out to Philadelphia. Now, the average fan, they would think nothing of it. But because this was his third time doing this, because he did this when it came to in Houston. Well, I can say this the second time, because he did this in Houston. Wanted to force his way out because nothing was going his way after Houston gave him each and every asset that he wanted around for so many years. And yet right now he's stuck in Philly and everything else, and things don't go his way, is going to be just a bad swirl all over again. And I could say the same things if Ben Simmons, I know a lot of things happen with his mental and everything else that's like that. But at the same time, you have to perform at such a big level, because I would just say this: a lot of owners are looking at these things, and a lot of things can change when it comes to the players' contracts in the future, to where they're minimizing certain things where players won't be able to make this much of money because of your certain attitudes, your certain egos and everything that goes with it. Just like a Zion Williams, for my last example, when it comes to him, he is such a young player. For him to even be saying, he wants to play in New York, or him just wanting to sit out much longer, or just refusing to play because of certain things what happened with his weight and everything else that's like that, not cooperating, going against certain wills, and it's attaching to a lot of these younger players, especially in Houston and everywhere else. I just feel the NBA needs to crack down on this, because a lot of these fans pay great money, and a lot of these fan bases, believe, and especially with these owners, they don't want to be do the loop each and every time because something doesn't go their way. It's all about hard work and dedication, and you're going to sacrifice a lot of different times.
You hit the nail right on the head. And I was really going to start with James Harden, because I think for me, James Harden, he irritates me. And why I say that is he's a phenomenal player. He's very gifted at scoring, very gifted at scoring. But when the times, like you said, when the times get tough, when the times get hard and his number is called, he does not show up. He chokes every time. And even when he was in OKC, he wasn't what he was now than when he was in OKC, obviously. But when you go to Houston, throughout the course of that time he was in Houston, that Houston organization gave him so many pieces to help him win and get to that next level. There was
Mm-hmm.
so many chances that Houston could have went to the finals. So many. They were a red hot team. They played very good defense. They were very well coached, and he just didn't he didn't he failed that organization to me. And why I say that is when you have CP3, you're up on Golden State. Game 7 in your building, you don't show up. And you have the chance to put this team away. And he when the moment is big, James Harden becomes small. But in the regular season, this man's going to score 40, 50 points a game. He's going to do that. He's going to score 30. He's going to be shooting everyone's lights out. But when it gets to playoff time, he shrinks badly. And that's why I think, like, I don't know if he'll ever win a championship. And even the great late Kobe, he even said that style of play that James Harden has will not help him win a championship. It just won't. He has to change the way he plays the game of basketball in order for him to say, you know what, I want to win a championship. Or do you just want to see stats? You just want, I had this X amount of numbers, I won this MVP, this. No, it's not about that. It's about when you get to the playoffs and you need to finish the deal. When he was in Brooklyn, now for me, this whole Brooklyn team, I had no confidence in Brooklyn. I thought Brooklyn was, even though they had Durant, Kyrie, and Harden, very skilled basketball players offensively, you had that team. I was just wait. There was a time where I'm like, this is about to implode, like literally, and it did. Kyrie Irving situation is still ongoing. Durant, and even though I'm not the biggest Durant fan, I'm not a Durant fan at all. I do feel bad for him right now, because it's like this man, he genuinely loves playing basketball. He can't help that he gets injured, and he was suffering a lot of different things, even last season, the season before, and even into this season. He wants to play basketball, and I believe the man wants to win a championship and wants to do things. He wants to be the best. But Kyrie has his situation. James Harden forcing his way out. It's very unfortunate. And for James Harden, I will never forget when the Milwaukee Bucks and the Nets were playing last season in that conference championship. It was very annoying to not the conference championship, the semifinals, when James Harden, Durant played a great game, and it was just his toe being on the 3-point line for them. They were that close to winning and moving on. When they headed into overtime, James Harden was nowhere. He kept passing the ball to Durant. Obviously, Durant is gas, but that's no excuse either. But The Nets brought you in because you were another asset to help them win, and
Mhm.
you did not deliver. Then you head into this season, Kyrie's situation, it's not fun anymore. Now you're with the 76ers. That's going to be the same story. And then guess what? James Harden's going to go somewhere else. He's going to go somewhere else. He's going to go somewhere else. It's very unfortunate because the NBA really does, like you said, has to crack down on these guys. Just okay, I'm just going to sit out. I'm going to force a surgery like Kyrie did when he was with Cleveland, or just a lot of different things. Even Zion Williamson, you're a young player. You have a chance. Okay, I'm gonna build this organization up. I'm not saying the organization is a good organization. The Pelicans is not a good organization, but you were blessed and you were able to be drafted by them, and you can have a team built around you and work with what you have and see what you can do and what you can work at. You wasting time by, oh, I'm not in shape, or I'm eating too many pizzas, I'm drinking all this. So this dude is eating whole pizzas. There was reports about that. Not
Mm.
taking care of yourself, but then you expect, oh, I just want to leave. I don't like it here. It's you haven't been playing enough for you to say that you don't like playing here. You know what I mean? So I think the NBA needs to crack down on this information. But when you mentioned LeBron, people always love to bring up LeBron's decision to go to Miami. Like you said, LeBron everywhere LeBron went, he honored his contract. It ended on a bad note based off of on the court. Then he went elsewhere. He kept his end of the bargain each place that he went to. All these other guys to me have no right to be sitting around and saying, oh, I don't want to play when you haven't delivered. You haven't won a championship. And that's even for Harden. Yeah, Harden's a great scorer, but you haven't done anything for me lately. So I find that an issue. But Jeremiah, to you, do you see James Harden? Then we're gonna shift gears to him. Do you ever see him winning a championship? The way he plays, his attitude, and just, oh, I'm gonna force myself out of these different places. What do you think?
When it comes to James Harden's style of play, I do not see him winning a championship, especially not in Philadelphia. Philadelphia for years, they have this thing of the process being with Joel Embiid and also with James Harden. But at the same time, can you really trust Harden? You really can't, especially not in big moments and especially not off the court. When it came to every season, these last 2 seasons that James Harden came into to back to training camp, he has always been out of shape. And what else? He is always struggling with an injury, especially with his hamstring. You cannot keep going on and you cannot keep relying on certain fouls. You've seen when it came to the last game that they played the Nets, he was 3 for like I think 27. And Joel
Hmm.
Embiid, he was doing as much as he can, but they was relying mostly on the free throws. He was trying to look for fouls and do this and do that. But you can't always rely on that, especially in the playoffs. You know how the refs get when they let the teams play in the playoffs. It's a much different lights, and James Harden knows that. And for him to always be kind of lollygagging, and first of all, for James Harden, you don't know his personality of how he's gonna feel each and every day. One day he'd be saying, "Oh, I love Philadelphia," just like he said, but then the next day he wants to be like, "I'm ready to get out of here." So with that much ego and arrogance, it's going to be hard for your team to win a championship because if one guy came from a place that he was already annoyed when things got tough, how is he going to be on your team when things get tough, especially
Right.
on big moments? So that's why I have to say to Embiid and of course Doc Rivers, being a great head coach, and I just don't think that's going to mesh up right, especially in that tough Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and I have to applaud players like Steph Curry. And Steph Curry has been with Golden State. When
Right.
you look at it, you're thinking Steph Curry right now, and Klay Thompson and Draymond and all those guys. You've never seen Curry complain. Even when he first came in, he was, oh, they called him too little. He's not athletic, but this man perfected. He transcended the 3-point shot. He made the 3-point shot what it is now. The acrobatic shots, the percentage, the way he makes his shots, and how many threes he makes a game, it's ridiculous. The man is phenomenal with shooting. But he never complained. Even before they went on that whole championship run against Cleveland, he stuck with his team. He stuck with it. I'm going to stay here and I'm going to dedicate myself and keep working hard. And guess what? The man has championships. He has won rings. But when you look at these other guys like Harden, you haven't done anything for me to be like, yeah, Harden deserves to leave. When the teams he's played for, he's had talent around him, especially in Houston. Like I feel like he choked terribly in Houston. And Houston was on the verge of dethroning Golden State at that time when Curry was going through his whole when they were going through their championship run at the time. It's unfortunate because I don't think, and I like you said, I don't think Harden will ever win a championship until he changes the game and he changes his attitude. Because let's say it doesn't go well in 76ers, which I don't think it will. What now? What are you gonna do? You're gonna, oh, I'm gonna sit out. I'm gonna come, not in shape. The same thing. The same way they ridiculed Ben Simmons in the playoffs and how he showed up, Harden does the same thing. So what's going to happen when Harden doesn't show up? What's going to happen? Embiid is a phenomenal player. Embiid is a very good player, but James Harden and him, I don't know if I like that mix. I really don't, because Harden, you had Durant and you had Kyrie, two
Exactly.
gifted offensive players, and you couldn't even get it done. It's very, very annoying. And then when you look at Ben Simmons, I'm not saying people go through mental health issues all the time and don't have the right mindset at the time. But I felt like for Ben Simmons, where is it like, okay, let me get a backbone and let me get my shot together. Let me actually sit down and perfect my shot and be a lot better and build with the team. You're sitting out, you're moping, you're pouting, oh, I want out. I want out. When, like you said, these fans are paying money, these owners are bringing you in, they're doing all these different things, and I feel like now these players are getting very big-headed when they haven't accomplished anything yet. And it's very irritating how it kind of, they say it falls on LeBron, but at the same time, LeBron, he may have started the trend of, players wanting better for themselves, but now these guys are just like, no, the five straight games, it hasn't worked, I want to leave. Like, and even with the Lakers, right? The Lakers look terrible. I mean, I don't think the Lakers are going anywhere. But
Right.
they're still playing. They're still sticking together. LeBron is still scoring these crazy amount of numbers. He's still, being in tune with the team, even though it's a ticking time bomb. We know this team is going to break up in the off season. But what happened to players sticking with their teams and saying, you know what, I'm going to work this out? Now, we can look at, when Tom Brady was with New England. He's been with New England for 20 years and had a amazing run in New England, but those last couple of years just didn't. It wasn't working. It wasn't working. Him and Belichick started going apart. In instances like that, it's like, okay, it's time for me to switch gears. Even with Russell, you've been with the Seahawks for a long time. It's starting to go in a different direction. It's time for me to leave. And Russell and Brady have the right to do that. They delivered for those organizations. James Harden has not delivered for OKC, Houston, or Brooklyn. And I don't think he's going to deliver for the 76ers, but he has the most, oh, I need to leave.
And
I
all
don't like it.
talent around him.
Exactly. But that wraps up tonight's show, Jeremiah. We'll continuously talk about this. I think there's going to be more stories coming out about this. But that wraps up tonight's show. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, the audience, for always being in tune and always giving your support. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Leon, for the production and just, keeping me focused. Thank you so much. And I'll see you guys here on Jasmine First Impression Sports Talk Monday at 9 p.m. Have a good night.